Hi, everybody. It's me, Tracy Thomas, the paranormal diva, Tracy Thomas Shepherd, which is my married name. And I don't know how this happened. My entire career, my music career, Tracy Thomas. I kept my maiden name for that. And then I got married and I had a Facebook account that I started back in the day. And my kids made fun of me saying that Facebook was for young people. And turns out, nope. Um, But I put Tracy Thomas Shepherd because it was separate from my career. But now I am universally known as Tracy Thomas Shepherd. So, long story short, Tracy Thomas Shepherd. Um, I thought today, I've been getting some messages and emails from you guys since I started doing this. I thought I would talk about one of my experiences that I've had of a paranormal nature. So I definitely want to cover that. I'm surprised at the interest, but I guess it seems logical if you're presenting yourself here on YouTube as a worthy expert that maybe you have a few stories. So I'm going to do that. But first of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about the notion of what a witch is. So we're moving into Halloween, and it's time for pointy hats and shoes and all things black, which I do tend to roll that way. I have some thoughts on it. I happen to know a lot of people who consider themselves witches. You wouldn't know them on the street, but then I get a lot of questions I have a lot of conversations about the ridiculousness of being a witch, because people tend to think that it's something it isn't. And so I'm going to try to clear that up a little bit, at least for my own little inner circle. I get asked a lot if I refer to myself as a witch. I don't. But I do say, in jest sometimes, I'm a Jesus witch, which kind of really sums it up, because being raised by Southern Baptist people from Appalachia, I was schooled in the ways of the Bible. We did some church. My mom wasn't like all that about it, but holidays, that sort of thing. But then as I developed my own mind and way of thinking, I leaned way more towards what could be considered paganism. Love of the earth, fascination with ritual, fascination with tradition. I liked things that were very old as far as customs and religions. Not that Christianity is not old, but it's just a mere pup compared to some other disciplines. I think when you call yourself a witch, or when you come out of the closet as somebody with an interest in the paranormal, claim to be psychic, you're opening yourself up for it. So it's a brave thing to do. I don't know if it's a wise thing to do. That's why people who roll that way are usually pretty secretive. And I understand that. But I've made my stand now as an old lady in the world, as a crone. That was not to my very much loved band members in the Crones. But I think, for me, I don't declare anything specific, because my mind doesn't really work that way. I don't feel like I put anything into categories. I'm just a big free-for-all in my head. And it's obvious if you know me, or if, God forbid, you were raised by me, but they have come to love me nonetheless. So to say you're a witch means, to me, that you like your prayer with props. I call it prayer with props. Witches pray. Witches are good. There's all sorts of offshoots of paganism, and witches and pagans aren't necessarily even the same, but it's dicey because people associate a love of being a witch as somebody who's into black magic, devil worship. It's associated with the dark side. So let's talk about that, the black. Why do all witches always wear black, and why is that a thing? Why do Catholic priests wear funky robes? I mean, it's just a religious tradition, but it did start because they were so persecuted when they would be out doing their ceremonies and their worship at certain times of the year at night, and they wanted to hide from anybody who possibly was going to burn them alive, so they wore black. Pretty much that simple. It's not a direct nod to the dark arts. There's a lot of really good witches, green witches, white witches, kitchen witches. I go down such a rabbit hole with this. I'm trying to stay really focused and just teach you a thing or two. To be Wiccan is to love the earth and to love ancient ways of worshiping the earth. And there's also various degrees of being Wiccan. There's so many different ways to be Wiccan. So I'm going to generalize it. Most pagans, Wiccans, alternative religions are very earthy. A lot of them are vegetarian. They love and respect all life forms. They do certain things based on the phases of the moon, which is quite powerful to people living on the earth. The moon can affect our moods and all kinds of bodily cycles. So there's a love and appreciation for the moon, nature, planets, earth, and it's more polytheistic. It's not the worship of one god. It's a love and an encompassing of many spiritual doctrines and deities. So I'm a Jesus witch. I really combine the two for my own way of worshiping what I believe is a higher power. I do believe in a higher power. I believe in God. I don't really designate God, goddess, so bad witch. And I kind of use witch in jest, but there are many beliefs within paganism that there's God energy, goddess energy. I believe that to an extent, opposites, but to me, it's just one energy. And I forget sometimes if it's to be male or female. I tend to believe that outside of a human body having a human experience, gender is purposeless. So that makes me probably neither Christian or pagan. I don't know. I've marked my own path. Ew, now that doesn't sound good. I've created my own path. Witches are among us, and they are not casting spells on you. They're not cursing you, for the most part. So anyway, let me talk about my experience with the paranormal, my personal experience. I've had a few things. What I haven't had, which kind of shocks me, is there's a couple things I really want to experience that I haven't. I want to see a UFO. I want the little gray alien to show his face. That wouldn't scare me. Of course, I say that now. Never had that. I've never seen anything in the skies. Granted, not always looking up, but, and a ghost, a true, what we think of as a ghost, the transparent or the shadow figure. I've never had the experience, but I know people who have. I know my husband Scott did an episode here. He's feeling better, by the way. Thank you. And he's had a couple experiences, and I know him to be, just as true as they come. But I haven't. I had one experience that might have been something like that, but it was a man that I was walking with that was he was just a guy. It was not what I would have ever thought was a ghost. And so that's the story I'm going to tell right now. My son was about 4 or 5. He's now 36. So it's been a minute. And we were obsessed with autumn, and like all good witches. And we went to get a pumpkin. And that was a big deal. I kind of made it our thing to, we didn't just go to the grocery store and grab a pumpkin. We went to pumpkin patches, and we looked and we looked, and we were on the hunt for the perfect pumpkins for our home for that year. And I checked in, and you check in and then they let you go back. And when I checked in at the counter, there was a man off this way a little bit right behind me, Native American man. It's always Native American with me. I have a definite past life connection to that. And I thought, because I was young and single, thought he was very handsome. There's a very nice looking man back there. And I assumed he worked there. That was the vibe I got. He was working. So Corey and I walked back to the pumpkin patch, and it was big. So we're in a field, and we're winding our way back through the field, and this man was following us the whole time, and I just assumed he worked there, and I didn't really even find it odd. I thought if he was working there that he was going to help me carry them should they be too heavy. I guess that's what I thought, if I'm remembering that right. So we get out to the middle of the field, and I thought I started to feel a little bit weird about it. I thought maybe, what if he doesn't work here and he's in some way a threat to me? So that then started going through my mind, but I didn't really sense that. Not that I always do, but I have good radar when I think I'm in trouble. And so that went through my mind. But we walked and we walked and we walked, and we get out into the middle, and there's probably people here and here. It was by no means packed, but there were people in the pumpkin patch around us. And at that point, Corey had picked the pumpkin the size of a small horse. So I was turning around just to ask, is there a cart, or how do I, maneuver this? I turned around, he was gone. I mean, nothing. And I do what I do when those things happen. I just froze. I guess my brain was trying to catch up with the phenomena, and it took it a minute, because there was no way he had gone in any direction. So I'm like the center, I'm the sun there. I'm like the center of the universe. There's people around, and it's quite a long way back, and I had just seen him. Then I turned around and I'm like, well, I'll strike up this conversation about this big pumpkin with the handsome man. And I turned around, he was gone. He couldn't have gone in any direction unless Scotty beamed him up. It was impossible. And so I stood there trying to comprehend what had happened to me. And like we do, I kept looking, thinking that, the scenario was going to change. I kept looking, thinking, now this time I'm going to look and he's going to be there. And he just wasn't. And then as I thought back on it, I think the only thing I should have noticed maybe was that his mode of dress might have been a little different for the time period. But didn't jump out at me. But that was the only thing I could think that might have said, wait, this is out of place. Otherwise, it was just a guy with us in a field helping us with our pumpkins. So that was what I think may have been a ghost experience, but it was certainly not what I thought a ghost experience would be, because he was just a guy. And I've thought about it a lot. This has been quite a long time ago, and I've thought about it a lot. But my life has always had odd connections with things of a Native American nature. My great-grandparents were English teachers on the reservation in Oklahoma. My grandmother was born on the reservation in Oklahoma, and she was Melungeon. So she was a combination of European, African, and Native American. And so it's there. It's not in my DNA, and I was so bummed out about that. It would have meant a lot to me to have that, but okay, Sarah. So in conclusion, and I'm sure you just experienced a really bad bit of editing. If anybody out there wants to help me with this, I'm so bad at it. But in conclusion, we all have our own way of being. We all have our own way of being religiously, politically, and I think it should be okay. It's like one diet is not right for every single body type. One way of being is just not going to work for a planet so full of different and beautiful people. Not everybody's an artist. Not everybody's, working at the bank 9 to 5. But if you're doing either of those things, it should be okay. And we as a species should love and honor you. So I hope I've helped you understand a little bit about where I'm coming from with my way of being. And I hope that it will give you the strength and courage to embrace your own. Be true to yourself. And it comes with age. It's much easier when you are 64 sitting at home talking about it than it is, being 30 out there looking for a mate, trying to morph into what you think they'll love. I do not envy you young people out there dating in the world. So that's it for this episode. Next episode, I'm hoping one of you is going to reach out and tell me your ghost story, and then we will record that and present it. It's paranormaldiva712@gmail.com. Please send your stories, no judgment. If I think you're a big fat liar pants, I probably won't put it on, but I won't judge you. I do hope I'll hear from you. And until next time, I am the Paranormal Diva.